Hey there, I saw your comment on my sister Katie's page, and I thought I would help add some clarity to it. So this actually hits two topics, which would be continuationism versus cessationism, as well as a bit of eschatology. Now, in your statement, I'm assuming you're referring to Acts, where Peter is speaking to the crowd and beginning his sermon. So when we exegete Scripture, the first thing we need to do is ask, who is the author or the speaker speaking to, and what is the context? So Peter is speaking publicly to the people that are in front of him. Now, I would never say that any part of the Bible does not apply to us at all, but we do need to take in context the audience here. So we have Peter speaking about the last days, which we'll define in a second, about what is going to happen to those people in that context. So I do have a series about Matthew 24 on my YouTube page, and I'll put a link right here so you can go look at that. I'm going to upload that this morning, actually, specifically for you, just to help give some clarity to those passages. So it's very easy when you're exegeting the Olivet Discourse in Matthew 24 and its parallel in Luke 21 to assume, if you believe in a kind of a futurist view of eschatology, that it's talking about some far future event. But the last days is really referring to the end of the era, which is mentioned right at the beginning of Matthew 24, and it's referring to the final end of the covenant with Israel. And that actually did occur in AD 70 upon the destruction of the temple, ending any possible chance of fulfilling the Mosaic law because they could not make any sacrifices anymore. So if you take that into historical context and look at it in parallel with what Peter is talking about, in the last days, you'll see those kinds of things happening. So it's crystal clear that during Pentecost and throughout the whole book of Acts, we see apostolic gifts because there are apostles present and the office was not closed. And God was revealing his truth of the gospel with signs and wonders as providing proof for those things. So important thing to note is apostolos in the Greek is what we're seeing here, and you can see the definition there. Something I'd like to point out is the apostles, all of them, were appointed by Jesus directly. And yes, that includes Paul. Now, this is a very important point for those of us who believe in cessationism, because the closed canon of Scripture really matters. If someone were to hold the office of prophet or the office of apostle, that means that they are speaking the very words of God through everything they say, infallibly. That would also mean that every word they say in that office, in that role, could be considered Scripture. Therefore, we would have new books of the Bible being added today. Just something to think about and something to consider in your beliefs, and I hope that helped and added some clarity to the conversation. God bless.